This is you. You did everything right. You studied hard, you put in the hours, you climbed every rung they told you to climb. And one day you opened an offer letter, saw a number with six figures on it, and felt something you had been chasing your whole life. $100,000 a year. The number your parents whispered about like it was something sacred. The number your teachers held up as proof that hard work pays off. Cross that line and you made it. Simple as that. And then your first paycheck landed, and you stared at it, because the number on your screen was not $100,000. It was not anywhere close to $100,000. Taxes had already been through it before you even had a chance to look. Federal tax, Social Security, Medicare, state tax, sometimes a local tax on top of that depending on your city. And what you actually took home was somewhere between $65,000 and $78,000, depending on where you live. Which still sounds decent, right? Until rent hits, until your car hits, until your groceries and your insurance and your phone bill and your subscriptions and your student loans all line up at the door on the first of the month. And suddenly you are sitting there at 2 a.m. doing math on your phone, wondering where exactly the money went. Sound familiar? Because here is the thing nobody told you. $100,000 stopped meaning what it used to mean. And the people who set that number as the goal never came back to update it. The US Census Bureau reported that the median household income in America in 2024 was $83,730. So at $100,000, you are genuinely above the national midpoint. You're earning more than half the country. On paper, that looks like winning. But winning looks very different depending on where you are standing. And for millions of people earning $100,000 right now, the view from the inside does not feel anything like the win they were told to expect. SmartAsset ran a study in 2025 that took a $100,000 salary and adjusted it for taxes and local cost of living across 69 of the biggest cities in America. And the results are the kind of thing that explains everything you have been feeling. In Manhattan, after taxes and cost of living, your $100,000 salary carries the real spending power of $30,362. That is it. In San Francisco, it is $42,128. In Honolulu, it is $38,609. You work your entire 20s to land a six-figure job in one of the great American cities. And the reality of that salary once the costs hit is that you are functionally living on what looks a lot more like a working-class income than the financial comfort you were sold. So why did this happen? How did a number that meant something real for your parents turn into something that barely covers the basics for you? The answer goes back further than most people realize. In 1980, the median home price in the United States was around $47,000. Today, it sits at roughly $420,000. That is nearly a 9 times increase in the cost of housing alone. Wages grew over the same period, but nowhere near at that rate. Inflation in general has run at roughly 3% per year on average across the long run, which sounds small until you compound it over decades. Something that cost $100 in 1990 costs around $240 today. Your $100,000 salary in 2025 carries the same real purchasing power as roughly $42,000 in 1990. The number on your offer letter stayed the same. Everything you have to spend it on did not. And yet nobody revised the target. You were still chasing $100,000 like it was 1985, and the world had quietly moved on without a single announcement. So if $100,000 is not the finish line, where is it? What does actually wealthy look like in 2025? Charles Schwab surveys thousands of Americans every year with one specific question: how much do you need to feel wealthy? In 2025, the answer came back at $2.3 million in net worth. Not income, net worth. Total assets minus everything you owe, $2.3 million. And the threshold just for financial comfort, not wealth, but simply the point where you stop losing sleep over money, came in at $839,000. Those are the numbers real people associate with real financial security right now in 2025, and a $100,000 salary without a clear strategy behind it is not a reliable path to either of them. Subscribe and like right now if this is starting to reframe something for you, because what comes next is the part that actually puts the power back in your hands. Here is the thing that changes everything once you understand it. Income and wealth are two completely different games, and most people spend their whole lives playing the income game, thinking it is the same as the wealth game. It is not. Income is what lands in your account every 2 weeks. Wealth is what you own that keeps growing whether you show up to work or not. And those two things can be almost completely disconnected from each other, depending on what you do with the gap between what you earn and what you spend. There is someone out there earning $150,000 a year who is going to retire broke, and there is someone earning $70,000 a year who is quietly building $2 million in the background. The difference between them is not the salary. It is what they do with what is left over after the bills are paid. So let us run your actual numbers, because this is where it gets real. If you earn $100,000 in a mid-cost city, your take-home after taxes is around $72,000. Rent on a one-bedroom in most mid-size American cities runs between $1,400 and $1,800 a month. So that is $18,000 to $21,000 a year just in housing. Groceries around $5,000 annually. Transportation including your car, insurance, and fuel around $7,000 to $9,000. Healthcare somewhere between $3,000 and $5,000. Stack your utilities, your phone, your subscriptions, and the general cost of existing, and your baseline expenses land between $40,000 and $50,000 before you have made a single choice about your lifestyle. That leaves you somewhere between $22,000 and $32,000 to work with every year. Now, what you do with that gap is the most important financial decision you are making, whether you are making it consciously or not. If you take $1,000 a month from that gap and put it into a broad market index fund, the S&P 500 has returned just under 10% per year on average since 1928, through the Great Depression, through 2008, through every crash and crisis in between. At that rate, your $1,000 a month becomes around $207,000 in 10 years. In 20 years, it grows to roughly $760,000. In 30 years, you are sitting on over $2.2 million, which is the exact net worth that Americans in 2025 associate with being wealthy. And you got there on a $100,000 salary by protecting $1,000 a month and leaving it alone. The salary did not make you wealthy. The decision you made with the gap did. And this is the question I need you to sit with right now, because the answer tells you everything about where you are actually headed. How much of your take-home pay are you consistently putting into investments every single month? Not what you intend to do, not what you did last year, but what is actually happening right now on a regular basis. Drop your honest answer in the comments below, because that number is a more accurate picture of your financial future than your salary ever will be. Now, here is the part that matters just as much as the strategy. Because none of this works if you are living in the wrong city for your financial situation and pretending otherwise. Where you choose to live is one of the highest leverage financial decisions you will ever make, and most people treat it like a lifestyle preference without ever running the real numbers. That same SmartAsset study showed that in Oklahoma City, a $100,000 salary delivers around $89,989 in real purchasing power after taxes and cost of living. That is nearly $60,000 more in real money than the same salary in Manhattan. $60,000 is a second income. $60,000 is the difference between building wealth and just surviving. The city you live in is not just a backdrop to your financial life. It is one of the main characters. The honest version of this conversation also has to include the fact that $1,000 a month in investments is not accessible to everyone on a $100,000 salary right now. If you have significant debt, or you are in an expensive city, or your situation is complicated in ways that a single video cannot account for, your real number might be $300 a month. It might be $100. The mechanism works exactly the same way at every level. It just takes longer at smaller amounts. But a smaller amount invested consistently for 30 years beats a larger amount that never actually gets started, every single time without exception. The people who build real wealth on ordinary salaries are almost never the ones who earned the most. They are the ones who treated the gap between income and expenses like it was the most important number in their financial life. Because it is. The salary pays the bills. The gap builds the future. And the gap, protected and invested consistently over time, is the real answer to whether $100,000 ever becomes what you were always told it would be. It is not rich, but with the right behavior behind it, on a long enough timeline, it is absolutely enough to get you there. If this hit differently than you expected, subscribe, like, and share this with someone in your life who is still chasing $100,000 like it is the destination, because the destination moved, and the sooner they know that, the sooner they can start building toward where it actually is.